Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Rockstar Launcher, where we introduce our Rockstar business guests and we talk with them about their business and their legal challenges, the business challenges, and kind of everything in between. Speaking of Rockstars, we have a Rockstar law firm that I'm a co-founder of with my partner, Wei Zhang. We have 30 attorneys across the state of Texas, and we're full service. Another rock star that I have with me today is my partner, John Hustis, and he's going to introduce you to our guests for today.
Thank you, Suzy. It's a great pleasure. I've known these guys for 30 years, Joe Pollard Sr. and Joe Pollard Jr., and we started together in a technology company a long time ago. What I'd like to do today, though, is learn about their new business and have them present what they're doing as part of a family enterprise that's got 5 different territories, all of North Texas, including McKinney, Plano, Dallas, the Colony, Garland, Richardson, surrounding areas. You guys have put this together in the past 12 months. And I think there's a story there for people that want to know about starting up businesses. So, Joe Sr. was an experienced telecom software sales exec when I first met him. And Joe Jr. was
I was delivering mail.
He was delivering mail as an intern. That's right. That's right. And we have stayed in touch over the years. So, opening this up, tell us about your business first. Introduce what you're doing together and what's this family enterprise about.
Well, maybe I could just open up with a few words and then let Joe Jr. By the way, people call me Senior, and he's Joe. Okay, so that's the way we keep it separated.
Okay,
but
as long as you're not confused.
No. Well, when we talk about this business, this is not new to our family. We have been a family together because anytime you start a business, it affects everybody in the family. And so this will be my 7th over 40 years and Joe's first. And the thing that we look at is what are similarities? What can we use? What can we take from the other adventures, experiences we've had over those 40 years that will give us the opportunity to recognize and use those experiences where we can. And then we will also learn new things that are attributable to just this business. And so we play different roles. We have different skill sets, but everybody in the family, myself, Joe Jr., his wife, Tessa, my wife, Kathy. It is truly a family effort, which is really what attracted me, quite frankly, to this, was the ability to work with a family and build a family business. And I would tell you that the majority of the credit goes to Joe Jr., and he can tell you his thoughts about what he went through finding this opportunity, comparing it to others. Why did we pick this one? He actually developed it first. I was sort of sitting in the cheap seats looking at this, and I thought, this is a very interesting business. It has features that are controllable. It's not capital intensive. It's not people intensive, labor intensive, but the results would be a world-class company in a family business delivering world-class services to our customers for the benefit of insurance companies, carriers, adjusters, and ultimately the homeowners, in our case, themselves. So I'll turn it over to Joe Jr., and he can take you through some of the thoughts that he has.
So this one's different than the other 7.
The others were primarily venture capital backed, private equity. So there was complexity because of the number of people, the expectation of what an exit looks like. They're investors, so they want their money out, and they want a profit. This is a business, and you'll see it in the industry, that some families have had, and we work with other families, 5 years, 10 years, maybe 30 years. It can be generational.
So Joe Jr., sorry.
It's more a labor of love.
Exactly.
Yes.
Joe Jr., your other difference is this is the one you started, and the family's coming with you.
Right, which was a little weird at first. Well, it's also the kind of the stamp that when I told my dad, I'm like, I'm looking at kind of getting out of the corporate landscape and doing something for ourselves, and here's some of the concepts I'm looking at. And there were a lot of concepts, everything from brick and mortar, retail driven, business to consumer concepts. And when we landed on restoration and contents, it was very intriguing.
How'd you come by that? What was the event that focused you on content recovery?
I think it goes back to service projects that I was doing as early as, 14, 15 years old with our church community. We did tornado cleanup projects, other disasters, and Habitat for Humanity. So I always kind of had a really good purpose to wanting to go into projects like this with our community. And when this idea was pitched, it just kind of turned on a light bulb that, well, that's really interesting. And there were other factors too. When you think about starting a business, who are your competitors? What's your landscape? Do you compete with Amazon? Can you be automated? What does your resiliency look like during a recession or other economic events? And really, residential and commercial services just seemed like something that we could manage the risk, but also have a really good runway to grow.
But you went to a specific area, and that's content recovery. And this is part of a franchise group called Content Recovery Services.
Specialists.
You're specialists.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys now have all of the territories in North Texas, but you focused first with the franchise for the service. How did that happen?
Well, when you look at different franchises, you look at their, not just their ownership group, but their history. And CRS was spawned out of a full service restoration group out of Pittsburgh that was family owned. And we still are private, but it's a newer franchise. So when Tessa and I looked at it, we saw the ability to not just control our destiny, but also to introduce a new brand and be, kind of the stewards of that service offering in a large market.
Now, Tessa's your wife.
Yes.
And Kathy's your wife, and they're both involved in the business as well. They're not here today, but they're part of this. So when Tessa looked at it, what did she think?
Well, her background is in marketing and in e-commerce, and that was the first thing that popped to her. Is it was a very well done brand from a marketing standpoint, and it told a great story. And we had the ability to step into our community with that brand with purpose. And because he always looked at, honey, what do you think of this? And she said, it's not the craziest thing you've ever told me. So.
Now, this is a business that is not one that I'm seeing is likely to be taken over by AI, right? So was that a thought process that you went through when you were getting into the company?
Yeah, I could comment on that. This business will never be replaced by AI, but we use
augmented.
We use tools to enhance the business, improve the business, and deliver a better solution to the customers using those AI tools. And so we see that as a complement, not a competition.
Right.
To what we're doing.
So you're not replacing the people, you're using the AI to help your.
That's right.
It makes us more efficient, especially with our field teams. From when we do initial walkthroughs and we're taking pictures, we actually use an application that's slowly developing a checklist, if you will, so that when a truck rolls out to a claim site, the initial walkthrough already has things that go on a checklist that need to be loaded on a truck.
Yeah, I think that's, that's become something that and it's been recent, right? Within the last 2, maybe 3 years, where people are concerned about, hey, is what I'm getting into something that can be taken over by AI? And so I think it's great that y'all are creating, and particularly when you mentioned that, this is a family business and you want it to continue on for generations.
Mhm.
So I think you fit into a nice niche here
Mhm.
that works well. So now we've got the men involved here. What because men and women see things differently, right? And not just from the background of, like, your wife does the marketing and she has a background in that, but from the perspective of your wives, what are they bringing to the table that's just something that you didn't think of, or that, you wouldn't have thought of from the business perspective?
Yeah, I'll speak to that. So a lot of the businesses, all of the businesses I've been involved in, were not conducive to having a wife that doesn't have specific domain expertise in that area. They were high-tech companies. They were on the leading edge of some use case. And so when we started this company, the things that my wife enjoys doing and has done for our family is painting and texturing and things that are in the house. And
Preservation of certain antiques.
and understands those antiques, understands the criticality of making sure that when they're packed correctly, they're irreplaceable, they're multi-generational. And so her seat at the table is just as important as other people's seat at the table. So, we have a kind of saying in the company that all voices will be heard. And I think that's true amongst the team, our wives, and the other team members as well. And so each of them bring uniqueness, but they can also work in a team. And I think that bodes well for the family business.
So like a complementary effort there. So, okay.
So did you get any pushback on starting this as your first business?
Not pushback, but it's, if we're gonna do this, we've got to go all in, right?
Okay.
So, my wife still has her corporate job and looks at the certain efforts we're doing at CRS, but you look at franchises, and I think the term gets thrown out, absentee owner, and certain concepts you're looking at, and a certain degree of sweat equity. And with this, it had to be 100% every day, all day, from signing and the lease to how we built out our warehouse to all of our different tools and supplies, and hiring our management team, getting out in our initial marketing efforts were, I'll say, very grassroots, door to door, grip and grin, knock on people's doors. Because, a lot of the partners we work with are local franchises, but are privately owned family business. And, sometimes it's nice to bring in a box of homemade cookies and a smile and some information, right?
Yeah. But that's how you started. And then from that beginning, how did you get Joe Sr. interested, or did he get interested and come to you saying he was interested? What made you decide to join forces in this?
Well, I was watching Joe go through his evaluations, and we talked a lot just because we have different backgrounds. And, one of the things that I learned, and John, you and I were together when we learned some of that, which is pattern matching is a good thing. So we're not the first franchise in this organizational structure. There have been people that have the founders of the as the franchisors have been in it for decades, but there's also other franchisees around the country that have been in this for a couple of years, and so we share that information. And so Joe had the opportunity to talk to some of these folks before we ever signed. He signed, and then I came along, and so I was watching it thinking that the things we already talked about, we could do this together. We could do it as a family so that everybody's involved. And so he actually took the lead, and I got to watch how it evolved and sort of think about that in the context of what it takes to start a company. I liked all the check marks that I was seeing. And so we sat down one day and said, why don't we do this together? And we were all in, to use his point, 100%. Our wives were in 100%. And so we thought, all right, this is worth investing our time, our treasure, and building something that this industry's been around a long time. But if anything is true in business, if you can do something better, even if it's already been done, people will come to your door.
Okay. So then talk about what content recovery is for your customers and for your business. What is that process? When does that call come at 2 a.m. or whatever? What happens then, and what service are you providing to your community?
Well, it depends on the loss and the claim, right? So I think majority of what I've seen over the past year since I've been open is a lot of water loss claims. So you think about the call sequence, right? And insurance claims, it's the plumber or the firefighter, right? So when there's been a water event, usually starts with water extraction, structural drying, also mold inspection, depending on how long it's been. But for us, it's how soon can we get there to make sure that we can get furniture, all the content, personal items back to one of our facilities and either dry it out or make sure that we don't have any microbial growth.
Okay.
Right. With fires, it's a little different because you're going through we'll take a home in this example and not a commercial building, but you're trying to make sure that you don't miss anything that's in the rubble, that's keepsake, family heirloom, something important, personal documents. And that goes through a completely different cleaning sequence, from hand cleaning to ultrasonic cleaning to deodorization, so that when you're returning all the stuff back to the insured, the homeowner, one, it doesn't smell like a forest fire, but it's been cleaned to its previous condition or better.
Is a fire recovery, is that also taken off site, or the items taken off site?
Everything's always taken off site on our jobs. In one of our warehouses, we have 2 in DFW right now. Both are 15,000 square feet with their own purpose-built environmental chambers to handle microbial mitigation, deodorization, and drying. So that also protects other things in the warehouse, so we don't have spread of microbial growth. So it all kind of exists at the docks where everything unloads to start addressing everything with those items.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Since you've been growing, are you looking at adding additional warehouse, or is that something that you're waiting?
Absolutely. I think what we've always talked about is a hub and spoke system, because, with the geography, we go down to Waco and all the way up to the Red River, and then, can service all the way out to Longview and then past Mineral Wells to Abilene. So that's a pretty big rectangle up here in North Texas. So where do you place warehouses so that, one, we're not bringing everything back to Dallas and some of those outlying territories, but make sure that we can always be within an hour or so, because I think that's part of our secret sauce, right? Is Digital inventory is how everything starts. So when you need something out of your inventory, say if you're staying in an Airbnb or a hotel room, they call that additional living expenses, we can always go through our inventory and then have it brought to you, even if your home's not ready yet.
And you have 2 warehouses already, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, two of them for a total of 30,000 square feet just here in Dallas, Fort Worth. And over the next couple of years, we see that expanding in the areas that Joe talked about to probably 50,000 square feet.
Okay.
And if you think about what he spoke to, which is fire, mold, water, and other issues that the homeowner faces, we may have that content for a month.
Yeah.
We may have it for a year.
Yeah.
Especially you think about a fire and there's a total rebuild of the home. So we have to be prepared for both ends of that potential scenario.
So content recovery is just the personal goods inside the home that are movable, that you can move out. So while you're doing that work outside, what's also taking up the time is the restoration of the residence or the building. You do commercial and residential, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got a whole business that's being moved somewhere else or being moved out and then moved back in. Is that correct?
Correct.
So what's in the warehouse? What happens during this period to people's stuff? You talked about restoring and mold mitigation. What else?
Well, so just normal cleaning equipment, if you will, laundry machines, the ability to clean laundry, obviously, and clean items. You can think of it like a commercial kitchen, if you will.
And then how is it stored?
Everything's stored, wrapped and sealed, obviously protected with large items, but then everything that is not a large item is in its own indexed inventory box that's tracked by QR codes and goes all the way back to the photo inventory that's given to the insurance company and the customer.
So are you using robots?
No, but we've thought
Not today.
Not today.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think just to add to what Joe said, everybody's contents, their personal content, is unique and stored in a unique location.
Okay.
So your contents would be different than Suzy's contents, even though they're in the same warehouse. It's on a grid. We know where your items are, down to the individual box or individual item by serial number. To his point earlier, that we can find if you need that for some reason. So it's very organized, very driven by technology. Okay.
But you talked about the 4 of you in the family. There's got to be a bigger team, right?
There is. There are general manager, operations people, technicians, and they're the ones that are responsible for executing at the job. And then we have our operations directors that go from job to make sure we're performing in a way that will get us what we want for that particular homeowner, interacting with the homeowner. Do they have issues? Do they have questions? Because we want to make sure that they understand what the process is at the beginning, but also what it looks like during the process.
What do you look for in the people that you're hiring, these different positions?
Say not just professionalism, but for the folks in the field, it's empathy. Because a lot of times, homeowners, business owners that are going through this are distraught. Their entire world's upside down. So it takes empathy and care to be able to do this job. And you have to care for these items like they're your own, and be able to understand what it takes to not just pack something so it doesn't get broken, but also identify things that need to be repaired. And one of the examples I like to use is there was a customer that had a stone that was on top of their dresser. And to anybody else, it would have just looked like a rock in a pile of rubble. But to this man, it was a skipping rock that he got from his grandfather decades before, and it stood out to one of our team members. It was bagged, it was photographed, and when he called, very distraught, very upset, and said, "Has anyone seen my stone?" And we sent him the pictures, what you're looking for, and he kind of lost it after that point.
I think, this is where I feel like having a family-owned business on something like this really, truly makes a difference, because like you said, there's this empathy that goes in what you're doing. And if you're just big corporate where all you're caring about is do the job, get the stuff out of the house, clean it up, put it in the warehouse, store it, blah, 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 you're not thinking or feeling that, hey, this is all their belonging to their life, and all the things are wrapped up in that. And I think that's where having family-owned businesses can make a difference.
To you and me, that was a rock. To him, that was a memory, right?
Right.
But I think that's also part of our competitive advantage. We all talk about the generational transfer that's taking place between the baby boomers,
Yep.
the next couple of generations. That can be family heirlooms, it can be watches, it can be jewelry, it can be furniture, it can be things of value that maybe a person off the street wouldn't recognize a rock as being that sentimental, but it can be all over the map in terms of what's important to that homeowner. And so as time moves on in this transfer of assets and memories and personal belongings, I think that's just as critical as what most people think about maybe monetary transfer, but it's not necessarily just monetary.
You gave the example of, this rock was meaningful to someone. Do you have any other stories, that have kind of hit home for you where you've been able to help somebody when they're at probably one of their lowest?
I think in the very beginning this year, we had a water loss claim in North Texas. When the freezes hit, you can drip your faucets and do all the protection that you want, but when a pipe breaks, And this lady, it was her and her 3 kids. The youngest was special needs and required a lot of attention and special equipment. So part of that was oxygen treatments, feeding treatments with feeding tubes, special, equipment, chairs, and it needed to be moved pretty quickly before anything else started, to where they were going to be set up in their temporary housing. So we focused on that first, and just understanding exactly out of the supply room and all the other equipment that was around his room what she needed set up over there before anything else started.
And anybody who has the experience of having disabled children, in that event, those things are life-saving.
Mm-hmm.
And they're critical to life support. So you guys are trained for that?
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing, John, is setting expectations and hitting those expectations. I would tell you that I think most people have either had a situation they've been in where they've had a water problem, or they've had something else, could be mold, could have been a fire, or somebody that has, right? And having been through that myself, and when we had the freeze here in the Dallas area 4 years ago, I think it was, and the people came in, looked at our house. It was a water damage, all wooden floors throughout the bottom, and I, the conversation was, "We'll get back to you. It's not going to be soon, but we'll get back to you. Let's talk in 4 months." Okay, there's my expectation. I called in 4 months. And the question was, who are you?
Okay.
that is not the dialogue that I was expecting to have.
So we're almost out of time here, and I'd like for y'all to do you have like one word of wisdom for your fellow business owners out there that you've learned from or that you kind of take to heart?
The word that comes to my mind is professionalism, because that incorporates a lot of different characteristics, but it's what the customer sees. And I'll tell you, Joe and his team were given a reference from a family that wasn't even a customer yet, based on the interaction that they had before their particular event was dealt with. And I think that speaks for itself.
Great. And what about you, Joe? One last word of wisdom for us.
Oh, well, with it being my first company, I'd say it always takes longer than you think. It always costs more than you think, and it always requires more attention than you think. So as soon as you just come to terms with that and go all in, then you'll start seeing the fruits of your labor.
Well, there we are. We're out of time. We finished up another episode of our Rockstar Launcher. Thank you, Joe and Senior, for being our guests today. We enjoyed having you. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you.